Today's video is about traveling to Germany in 2021. The funniest joke I ever told. Hey everybody, I'm Steve.
I'm Nina. Welcome to our channel.
And before we get into the substance of today's episode, we first must address the controversy. I know that you've seen it in the newspapers, you probably have talked about it at your kitchen tables, in America, in China, wherever you might find yourselves. And that is our terrible blunder in Steve and Nina episode 19, how to make our favorite dessert pastry, the Portuguese Egg Tart. In that video, I am ashamed to say that I refer to the flour, sugar, and butter mixture that we roll into the shells as a bread. It is not a bread, it is pastry. I want to sincerely apologize to our viewers who really care about this stuff. Our editor has been fired, action has been taken, confidence has been restored. Okay, and are we taking the video down? No, I think the video is a product of its time, and it's useful as a teaching tool for future generations and for ourselves to look back on as we reflect over the many years of YouTube once we've been monetized and all that stuff. And we're over time. Okay, Germany. Today's video is about taking a trip to Germany in 2021.
And we'll tell you how COVID affected our travel and what to expect.
Now, we went in September of 2021.
Very recently.
And of course, the rules of travel internationally are changing very frequently during the pandemic. So if you're traveling later this year, things may have changed slightly. But what this video should do is give you a pretty good understanding of where the rules are now, what language is used to describe the different situations, and what to expect. Now, if you have any questions, of course, you can contact your airline. They end up being the ones that enforce all these travel rules, so they'll know exactly what to tell you and they can help you out.
Right, because due to the COVID, there are some complications on who can enter the country and with what documentation. Yeah.
And depending on the situation, if you're vaccinated, it tends to be much easier. But if you're not vaccinated, or if the situation changes drastically on the ground, there may even be quarantining required when you enter Germany. So that can really kind of mess up your trip. So we'll unpack it for you all so you understand today.
Yeah, so be sure to watch the whole video so you will have the information you want.
Right now, there is a general requirement to provide documentation when traveling to and inside Germany of one of three things: a full vaccination, a negative COVID test within 72 hours of travel, or proof of full recovery from COVID in the last 6 months. There are also potential quarantines in place if you come from a virus variant or high-risk area. At this time, the USA has been classified as high risk, and no place in the world yet is designated as a virus variant area, but they probably made that label up in case they ever had to use it. If you come from a high-risk area, the German government generally wants you to quarantine for 10 days upon arrival. Fortunately, you don't need to fulfill this quarantine if you submit proof of vaccination or recovery to their official registration site. If you just have a negative test, you are allowed to fly, but you need to quarantine for at least 5 days on arrival and then get a secondary negative test before you're able to move about the country. To simplify the whole process, the airlines will have you register with this website before you board your flight to Germany. We flew from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. to catch a connecting flight to Frankfurt, and they checked our COVID documentation at both airports. This is something you probably can expect to happen.
We're vaccinated, and that made everything much easier. It's smart for you to bring all your COVID documentation and an official ID with you at all times when you travel in Germany, because when we were there, we had to provide all these documents even before we could be served in the restaurants.
And we love going to the restaurants, so
yes,
it's very important. So Germans tend to be much more serious about contact tracing than at least in our part of New Jersey, where there's almost none. So how does that usually work?
Yeah, so in many of our Airbnbs and restaurants, we had to fill out online surveys or like documents with our ID and travel info. Yeah,
and I think basically these surveys and things, they aren't so much to track people around the country or to catch people that might be breaking their 5-day quarantine if they didn't have the vaccination. I think it's more about just being able to understand who is in a given day, place at a given day, And that way, if there was a positive test, they can go back and alert everyone else that they need to get tested. Although technically, I guess, if someone did break their quarantine and then was responsible for getting a whole restaurant exposed, the German government might then say, hey, we need to make our restrictions even tighter. So please follow the rules and just fill out the documents. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and of course, like you should have the masks at all times when you travel. And this is the German way to wear the masks. It's German fashion. So we start to doing this.
Just outside the sleeve. And depending on what state you're in Germany, they may have different mask requirements. These masks worked for us in the western part of the country, but of course they might change the rules at some point if they feel the need. We heard that in other parts of the country they also needed N95 masks, which are the kind that fit your face with no openings. What we did was we brought a few of each kind so that no matter what happened or if the rules changed while we were there, we were prepared. If you need to get N95 masks, you can buy Nina and Steve Adventures branded masks. You can find them at steveandnina.com. You can see there's an S and an N. It's very nice. If you can see clearly, it's beautiful craftsmanship. Freshly made, and if you order now, you can still smell the marker.
And get a discount with this. No matter if you're vaccinated or not, when you leave Germany and come back to the USA by air, you have to have a negative COVID test within 3 days, which means 72 hours.
And so the good news is that these tests are available pretty widely in Germany. It's not difficult with a little digging to find a clinic or testing site in a residential area that's set up for everyone to use. You don't need to be a German citizen or have any special situation, and you can get free tests. And we thought about going to get tested in Luxembourg because right before we flew, we were in Luxembourg visiting a friend, and then it was something like $40 per person. Right,
because we asked our friend to check for us.
We're like, well, I think I'll get the free ones in Frankfurt, thank you.
Another friend told us, you can go to this
clinic,
center.
And so it was really easy. The receptionist spoke English, so basically we just kind of like waited in line, got to the reception desk. They had us fill out registration forms online, and then we got back behind the people in line that had appointments, and they swabbed us and we were good to go. The whole thing took maybe 15 minutes.
It's super efficient.
There is something important to point out, which is that for some reason that I'm not totally sure of, after you have your test results emailed to you, they're emailed to you in a link. That link, the results of that link are only available for about 24 hours. I don't know why they set that up that way, and I never asked, and perhaps I'll never know. But you should know about it because if you get the test 70 hours before you fly and your test expires 24 hours afterwards, that's a problem. So you open the link, you look at the result. Of course. It looks kind of like this. And then basically you need to make sure you can download the file or at the very least take screenshots or pictures of the document so you can show the airlines and the customs people and all that.
And also the document is both in German and English.
You can see. And so you have your document, you've taken it off your phone and put it into some either like a picture format, or we texted each other our pictures to make sure that we had all the documents locked up. And then once you have your stuff in line, you're good to go. You can fly back. Well, folks, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you're planning on going to Germany in 2021, or perhaps 2022, perhaps even 2023, leave a comment down below, because we'd love to hear from you and talk about how interesting a country Germany is to visit.
Hope you found this video useful and stay tuned for our next video about Germany.
Auf Wiedersehen! We'd love to hear from you.
Hope.
You have to hope. You have to hope for the pandemic to end so you can take off your mask and eat pretzels.
Schnitzels.
Schnitzels.